So you have what, like a Home Depot shed that you could pick up for like less than $2,000 probably.
You could actually here, Dana, why don't you hit us with the intro?
Let's get the intro. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
Sorry. Well,
All right.
Get into that for you. It's making Dana's life harder.
Yeah, sorry, buddy.
All this
No, it's all right. We'll just add this in.
Trying to keep it a show.
Yeah, straight to it.
Yeah. All right. Well, welcome everybody to another episode of the Banya. You got myself here, of course, with Luke Manuel, and our guest tonight is Gene. What's your last name again, Gene?
Last name is Morris.
Morris. That's right, Gene. Mm-hmm. So Gene's a BJJ Black Belt under Paul Nava.
That's right.
A wizard of Jiu-Jitsu and international man of mystery. We don't know what you do all the time, but we were talking a little bit about it, and it's good to get to know you. So welcome.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, most people don't know what I do, and I like to keep it that way. A little bit of a mystery.
Nice.
Absolutely.
It's fun to travel a lot, hang out with like cool people, and get paid to do it.
Spread rumors.
It's like so no, it's super fun. I started jiu-jitsu back in 2006.
Okay.
Who is your peer class?
You know what's funny? It's so funny because like Paul Nava and John Cabay gave me my black belt. Like, I don't know, year and a half, 2 years ago. I don't know, time flies so fast, right? And when I got started in Monterey.
Okay.
Like Monterey in 2006. I was stationed there, so I was a Navy guy. And
you said you're from there too?
I'm not from there. No, I say I'm from there because I spent like 20 years there,
Yeah.
right? So kind of like it's my stomping ground, right? So, but it was funny. I started taking like the cardio kickboxing class at the local martial arts school.
Yeah.
And no martial arts, no wrestling background, no nothing really. Just not really even an athlete, right? So I'm like, I gotta get in shape, and it's like it would be nice to learn how to kick and throw punches. That was my thing. So I'm in this cardio kickboxing class with all these women, right? We're like punching the bag, and over on the mats over there is like this dude. He looks Brazilian. But he's not Brazilian. But he looks Brazilian. All these guys in gis, and I'm just over there. I'm just punching and kicking. I'm like, man, I should probably be over there. Really, I shouldn't be here with all these women, right? And it took about 6 weeks before I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna go over there and like sign up.
Yeah.
You know? And it was funny because it was like the first day was like a takedown day. And back in those days, like takedowns in wrestling just wasn't part of the equation, right?
Sure.
Like you would just pull guard or something. It was like it was a really sloppy stand-up game for jiu-jitsu guys back in those days. And it still kind of is. Like you're watching the transitions, people are getting better, wrestling's becoming part of it.
I wasn't going to say anything, but thank you.
Yeah, exactly. So wrestling has like played a critical role in like modern day jiu-jitsu simply because it's like, we got to deal with these guys, right?
Yeah.
And but it was like a takedown day like that first day. And I remember coach, he's like, hey, this guy's a white belt. Take it easy on him. He's brand new. It was literally like the first week. And so I didn't know how to break fall or anything. And dude probably did like some simple, stupid takedown. And I remember just falling on my shoulder, collapsing my lung. I mean, I fucked myself up. Bruised ribs. I was out for like 6 weeks. And I was like, oh, this stuff is so effective, dude. I got to sign up. So that was like my introduction to jiu-jitsu. It was like the wrong way, but it was like the right way because it was like, oh, this is good. Like if I figure this shit out, I'm going to be pretty powerful out in the real world. And
it takes a special kind of person to see that happen to you and be like, oh man, I got to do this.
Yeah.
Because not everybody's going to do that. Some people will be like, I can't do this anymore. It's not for me.
And it's funny because like how you show up and things like that is how you show up in life, right?
Yeah.
It's like you can run from it, or you can just kind of look at it from a learning perspective and go, you know what, I'm going to embrace this. I'm going to fucking go for it. And who was in that class with me was David Nava.
Oh.
Yeah, Paul's son.
Paul,
and he was a white belt.
Yeah.
I was a white belt. And we became blue belts together. He was a little further ahead of me, so he was always kicking my ass. But he was a super funny dude, like just chill. And I remember it was like a Pan Am's or something, and he was like talking about his dad, who was a brown belt at the time, gonna go compete. And then at those times, back in that day, it was like, dude, there wasn't a lot of black belts rolling around, right? So if you had a black belt, if there was even a jiu-jitsu school with a black belt teaching it, you're like, oh my god, I'm in like the top 5%, maybe even less.
Yeah.
And that was another like thing that crossed my mind too. I was talking to somebody who kind of understood martial arts, and he's like, you got a black belt like in your town? I was like, yeah. And he's like, fuck, dude, you need to go sign up.
Yeah.
And so I trained with I actually trained with Paul's son for a couple of years. And I stayed at that school until it was a brown belt, and then pandemic hit. My coach, he's getting a little old at the time. His name was Daniel Thomas. Is Daniel Thomas? Hopefully still breathing.
Yeah, it is.
One of those guys just kind of like excelled at martial arts. Everything he did. He was like another one of those like men of mystery. You know, he was just hardcore. He'd go pull off Pan Ams and the Worlds, and he'd usually win. And yeah, so it was like during the pandemic, and this fast forward to like 2020, right? So it's like I've been training, and pandemic hits, they shut everything down because it's California, and they went freaking nuts. And I'm like, I told my wife at the time, I was like, we got to get the hell out of here. Like this is not good for me. You know, I think she was okay with it.
Yeah.
But I was like, dude, we got to go. It's like, I'm tired of watching people double masked, like walking their dogs up a hill. You know, I'm like, this is not good. And so we packed up and moved out here, and then I took a little time off. I had some health issues, and so I was like working through that. And then finally, it was like when it was time to like go back to jiu-jitsu. It was scary because it's like I'm a brown belt, who's completely out of shape.
Yeah.
Do I even remember jiu-jitsu? You know, it's like it's been a while. It felt like, and then enter Cabay. So I found John's school, and he was brand spanking new, man. He's probably like 6-9 months into it, all white belts. And I thought, oh, this is perfect, right? Because it's like, I don't have to get my ass kicked every single day, you know, like fighting all of these monsters. It's like I can actually help teach and learn at the same time. And Cabay's the best guy on the planet.
Get back on the bike.
Yeah, it's a great way to get back on the bike. And and you know, there's like a mandatory 1 year, you know, to stick around, make sure that like you're legit and you can, you know, you're going to be sticking around before they promoted me.
Sure.
So, you know, that's kind of how that transition happened.
And that was here or down at Paul's?
It was down at Paul's because that's where he had the big ceremony, you know. So, you know, my black belt came from Cabay and it came from Paul, you know, because Paul's his disciple.
Right. For sure.
You know, so yeah, dude, it was super cool. And I thought it was so funny because I didn't connect the dots because I'm still friends with David, like on Instagram, right? And I was talking about like training down in Mesa, and he's like, "You need to go train with my dad." And it took me a while to like connect the dots. I'm like, "Oh, I do, fuck, man, yeah, I totally do, yeah." And so small world, and it's funny how the universe works like that because you know, you're just 1 minute you're training with some dude's kid, and before you know it, that same guy, some stranger on another state.
So Paul got started a little bit later too, then, huh? In life.
I don't know anything about Paul.
Because you said he had a brown belt when you
well, that was 2006.
Yeah, okay.
So I don't know how old Paul is. I got started when I was like 27, 28, something like that, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, since then, I think he's a 10-time world champion.
Yeah, he's racked
real
it up.
deal.
Yeah.
He was just talking the other day about how he's like, I gotta bring out the medals and like start like actually, because he's a super humble guy. Paul's incredible. Right. But trying to promote that more, like, and I was talking to him as well about just getting ready for Master Worlds and like building the Aries competition team and wanting to really put a lot of focus on that. I'm like, yeah, that's amazing. We should do that. And I know he's welcomed us whenever like getting ready for Master Worlds to come over there on Tuesdays and Thursday nights to get ready for it. And,
grind it out over there. It's great.
Serious rounds.
10 or 12 black belts sitting on the mats ready to train with you.
It's amazing.
Everybody's, you know, it's a really good environment. But you know, interesting thing about Paul, there was a period, and it's still into it, like the psychology of performance, hypnotic suggestion, things like that. Like what gets you into that pace of being like a champion, right? Because I noticed like a lot of jiu-jitsu athletes kind of just show up. Yeah. They don't put any like pre-planning into whether it's mental or physical or reviewing the tape to look at who they're going to be competing against, right? Like professional athletes normally do, right?
Sure.
A lot of these guys are just winging it, right? So in the back of my mind, I'm like, you're kind of self-sabotaging yourself you're giving yourself a way out.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And you're committing to this high standard of excellence going to like a Master Senior Worlds or something of that nature, and you don't even know who you're competing against until you show up. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And a lot of it too, I get it, you don't want to get all psyched out and like go to bed like, you know, with your heart pounding because you like just watch some footage of some dude you're gonna be rolling with and maybe he's really good and you're just like, fuck. Yeah. You know, you don't want to. So I get it. Like, but talking to Paul, you know, Paul is like, he gets super emotional, right? As opposed to like trying to get stoic about it and just cut it all off. Like he goes the opposite direction. And he was telling me he leans into it hard, and he knows exactly who it is that he's going to be rolling against. A lot of times they're his friends because when you get to those older brackets, there's just not as many people to roll with. Yeah, and he knows who's beating him, and he knows who he needs to beat. And he's like, dude, I get so walled off that, you know, it's like I got my music. I get super emotional to the point where it's like I really want to kill the guy on the mat. Like at that point, my wife is sending me Bible verses and all this other inspirational stuff, things that like drive me leading up to the match.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has this process of like just really getting emotionally wrapped up into it. And I think that's, to him, to his credit, he says that's my secret to success right
Amps
there.
him up.
It's all in the mind, And
I mean, everything is in the mind. Like you're saying, giving yourself an out. I personally experienced this about a week ago because I just competed on Sunday, and like leading up to it, I'm just like, I don't even want to compete. I don't want to do it. I don't want to go out there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. And, even Luke asked me, and my girlfriend asked me, like, are you nervous about it? I was like, it's not nervous. It's like, I'm not anxious about it. Like, and I work really hard to not be anxious about anything as much as I can. But I was still like, I just don't care. Like, it was an indifference thing. And even Brendan, he looks at me, he's like, you all right? It's like, I just don't care. I'm just indifferent to it. Yeah. And what it was, like you said, giving myself a way out. Like, if I don't care, like, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter if I win or lose. Yeah, it really doesn't matter anyways. But giving myself an out, which is like, I don't want to do that. Now, even on the day, I was like, I'm not going to go. I don't want to go.
Yeah.
And, of course, my girlfriend's just like, no, get your ass in the car. We're going.
Goes a long ways. Your buddies and everything else,
Yeah. So,
I usually get peer pressured into competing because I don't like to compete because just the amount, I like to win, and the amount of effort and training that goes into it. For me personally, it takes all the bandwidth that I have going towards like trying to be successful in my business.
Right.
And everything, and I have to parlay all that into jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse like rolling into like a Pan Ams or a Master Senior Worlds and losing in the first round after you put everything into it. Right.
Right.
So again, I give myself an out as well because I'm like, man, I know what it takes.
Yeah.
I know what my competition's doing to get their level up.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of these guys don't have like the disposable income to just throw around to make it to Vegas, park your ass there for a few days, pay for the registration and all the food and all this other stuff. So to them, it's like, it's go time. It's commitment, and I'm not that hungry.
It's a treat.
The hunger thing. Yeah,
when I'm not that hungry, I'm just like, yeah, fuck it. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna hang out with all their friends, and if I lose, I lose. And I'm like, yeah, you're missing the point, dude.
Yeah.
Like this is not the way you should be thinking about these things.
Yep.
So flipping the script is
It's
important.
pretty fun to get into that groove though. Like for me leading up to Master Worlds, like just like you said, it was a lot of mental bandwidth and times thinking about jiu-jitsu and just training, but it's a good break from life and work to just like sink back into that. So like as hard as it is, it's like it's a little vacation in a way,
That's the best way to look at it.
Focus on this one thing. So but I couldn't do that year round either at this point. It's like that's gonna be my treat every year.
The momentum of life kind of takes you in a direction, and if you can step outside of that for just a little while and go enjoy that experience, whether you win or lose. I think, it's everybody in the world of jiu-jitsu should be competing more for sure.
Yeah.
Because it is a whole nother world, and how you show up, like I probably said before, like how you show up on those mats during competition might reflect on how you show up a lot in your life too.
For sure.
Right? Something big comes along, you might just shrug it and fuck it off. Fuck it, shrug it off.
Yeah.
It goes one way or the other. Or you just, you take the bull by the horns and you go, you know what? I'm going to give it my best. And at least at the end of the day, I gave it my best.
Yeah.
And you could be a little butthurt and emotional if you lose, but really that's not the point.
Yeah.
I think we're all beyond that point now where it's like we're all trying to be professional, like jiu-jitsu athletes.
Right.
This is now just kind of like an old man sport. This matter of like, I like it. I like to like think of it more like church, where I'm going to my temple, and I'm getting this download, from the instructor, and he's getting this download from all of his hours of research and experience and work and wherever that's coming from, and I'm just trying to like distill a little bit of it, so it's just I'm a little bit better as a human being.
Yeah.
And naturally, it makes you a little bit better at jiu-jitsu as well.
Yeah.
But it really is kind of a life thing, where it's like it's more about. If you can do things hard here, you can do things hard out there. And I think competition is the hardest, honestly, because that's where it's like, it all comes to the top.
Yeah.
And the nerves and stuff, because you're not used to that environment, getting all shaky and the adrenaline dumps and it's waiting around for hours for the next match. And you're in the bullpen. You're basically by yourself, and that's great for a human being to experience all those things.
Yeah.
It's really, it builds character and it just kind of toughens you up.
100%.
Super good. Yeah, so I don't know, man. Jiu-jitsu's awesome, but it's not like my everything, right? Like how people just develop into like this is their lifestyle, this is all they do, and more power to them. But there's only so much bandwidth you can allocate to
For
certain
sure.
things, you know. So yeah, like nowadays I spend most of my time working with like in the financial field, like financial sector, like investing, macroeconomics, geopolitics, you know, where all that stuff kind of comes together. The combination of like the madness of crowds and the manias and things like that, and just trying to parse that all out. And so, you know, I talk to a lot of interesting people. A lot of people. I mean, I'd probably be the dumbest person in the room most of the time, which is probably
That's a good thing. That's a
place to
good
be,
thing.
right?
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So yeah, being in a room full of really smart people who can basically, you know, they're like historians. It's pretty wild because they can go back through like financial history and just tell you all these things that have happened and how things are similar today as they were in a past cycle, because everything's in cycles.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Who was it the other day that was saying we're all just doing this for the first time? It's kind of like the oldest person alive is, you know, maybe 110, you know?
Yeah,
so it's
right.
like things have happened in the past, but like who's actually experienced them,
Right,
you know?
right.
And, you know, you can read history books all day, but it's like nobody was there.
Well, it's wild. It's wild now because you start reading the history books. You know, this is like, you know, the winners write the history books.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
everything we're taught in school was written by the winner.
Yep.
Right. And you never question it.
Right.
And we're living in a time now where it's like all of these narratives are being questioned, right? And a lot of these narratives are falling apart because of actual receipts. You know, like this is, you know, these are the doctrines that started this and that, and you know, this is the guy who was responsible for this and that, and here's the proof of that, and then all of a sudden you start to realize like, oh man, there's way more to this world.
Dude,
we're in the Matrix, man. You know?
Dude, it's a simulation, right? Yeah. Well, and the more you think about it, like. Man, I just lost my train of thought.
Well, being in the Matrix, and you know, the more you kind of look at it, the more you realize what you've been told in life.
So okay, yeah. Sorry, I collected. Thank you. It's like we're in an enlightenment period. It really
That's
feels
a good way
like
of looking
that.
at it.
Like
Yeah.
an information enlightenment, as opposed to like the enlightenment of it was information, but it was, you know, like with the printing press, for example, like that was when dissemination of information was just massive. Or we have this now with the internet, of course. Like dissemination of information is massive, and on one side you've got everybody who's seeking truth, wanting to find the truth and dig in, and not actually like be censored just because it's something that isn't what they say,
Popular, right?
Whatever the popular, exactly.
Yeah.
Or there's that are trying to control whatever that information is,
Yeah.
whatever the narrative is, like wanting to control that in order to gain power or maintain power or whatever it is. But there's so much out there now for just trying to question everything, which we should be doing as people, like versus just spouting things off. Like question things. You want to question everything that's out there, not as a like just to be cynical, but to seek truth. And you want to actually find what the truth really is, because. Like you said, the history is written by the winners. Winners are always going to put it themselves in the best favor.
Yeah.
But if we look back and say, like, you know, what actually happened in World War II, and some horrible things that have happened in World War II as well, you know, that we were perpetrators of.
Yeah.
Or even, you know, throughout all of our history, like we want to paint ourselves as the good guys in America.
We get sucked into things from other countries, you know, and they'll be nefarious in the ways they suck us into things.
Yeah.
And you start to you'll read about it kind of at the highest levels of how like one country influenced another country to get them involved in something.
Oh yeah.
You know, and you know, so it's like when you start just kind of parsing these things out, and you start asking these hard questions, and the moment you start running up against resistance, and they're passing laws and stuff to keep you from asking those questions,
You're over the target.
You're over the target, right? And
how old are you?
47.
47.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because I've been thinking about this one for a little bit, and I think I'm 36 now, so I guess not as young as I feel, but like I think we're super lucky that we went through COVID, because I think it exposed this,
everything.
And, like, I think like everybody's minds have been freed a little bit to like question things more. So as you 10 years on me, and part of me is like, is it just the timing of my brain, or was it specifically COVID? I've always been a little bit skeptical, but not nearly as I am now.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, is it just maturity, or was it that specific event? So for you, like pre-COVID, were you as, I mean, probably nobody was as.
It's a funny story, dude, because So I worked for the Navy. So Naval Postgraduate School was my day job. So I got out of the military, and then like I got out of the military like on a Friday, and then back at a civilian job doing the same thing at the same lab, everything on a Monday. Essentially, I was working the system to get into the system.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what I did. And so I was happy doing this, like, you know, it was, you know, I was a lab rat working in the physics department. I was having a great time. And then the great financial crisis hit. That was like 2008, right? So then all of a sudden, recession, right? So then the federal government, especially these weapons programs, they started shutting them down because I worked in railguns. That was my thing.
Oh, wow.
Railguns. And so they started shutting down these programs, and I'm like, shit, I'm about to lose my job. And then, but we're part of a physics department, right? So they're like, the department's like, we like you. We're gonna get you in here as like an employee for the physics department. And I was like, cool. So I got like the safety net and the security of like a government job, and I thought at the moment, I'm like, this is my career, right? And then so I land in the physics department proper, which the weapons program goes away, and now I'm doing stupid shit like setting up basic physics labs, and you know, a lot of time to kill. It's a bullshit job. It's like what Elon's trying to get rid of right now, a bunch of bullshit jobs, right?
Yeah.
Give us 10 things you do a day.
Yeah, I'd be like, dude, I'll give you 10 things in a month, maybe, if I really stretch it out. But it was all that was the mindset. It was like if you were out of sight, out of mind, and you check the boxes, you're cool.
Yeah.
And in fact, I was getting awards every year for being a top performer, and I'm like, oh my god, really? And anyway, so
don't feel like you deserve it. And like,
I started a business on the side, right? Because I had my own office. Nobody fucked with me. So I'd bring in my own laptop, and I'd bring in my little MiFi, which is like a wireless network before tethering. So you're like tethering to a box instead of like your phone, right?
Yeah.
So I'd be cranking out. So I was like, I got to get into like affiliate marketing, right? I'm like, these guys are like drug dealers. I mean, they're making $5,000 a day. You know, it's passive. Once you kind of get a campaign off the ground, it's working.
Sure.
So I'm like, all right, I'm going to pursue this, you know? So I started pursuing that. And then like after a couple of years, I'm like making a couple of grand a day.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, holy shit, I don't need this day job, but this day job's so stupid.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it. I got the gym. I got everything. I got an office.
Health
I'm like,
insurance,
what? So COVID comes around and things go south, right? So they send everybody home for 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Remember that?
Yeah, right.
And so that ended up becoming like a year and a half or something.
Right.
It was like ridiculous.
Right.
And at that point, I was like, I had enough money built up in my savings account, and I didn't know how to invest it. Like I knew how to like throw it at, you know, stocks and lose it. I could trade, you know, if you want to call it that. And I was like, well, you know, I think I need to like get serious about this, because it's like you only get so many shots.
Yeah.
When you have like you built up a little bit of money, and it's like
time too.
And time,
like,
right? So I'm like, I can't keep blowing it, you know.
Yeah.
I was like, I got to stop being an amateur speculator. So that started my journey on like the finance. You know, going down the finance rabbit hole of kind of, you know, who can like demystify real estate for me in a point where I can understand it, so I can actually invest in it. Who can talk to me about macroeconomics to the point where I can understand it. And I started finding these guys on YouTube. I ran across this one dude, George Gammon. He had started his YouTube channel like 2019, like the end of 2019. And he's a character, man. This guy's like super charismatic, lives down in Colombia, doesn't speak a lick of Spanish, right? But retired early at like 38, and then decided to go down to Colombia and like tackle the real estate market down there, knowing no Spanish or anything. And then he started a TV show down there about this gringo that rolls around doing real estate deals, and it was a big hit.
Yeah.
And in between his seasons, he started a YouTube channel talking about macroeconomics, because that was his passion, that was his thing.
Yeah.
And so he had and he was interviewing like all of these like great investors, these guys like Jim Rogers and Rick Rule and, you know, Peter Schiff and things like that. Like these guys are like at the top, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, this dude's going somewhere, right? And I remember he, like, during the COVID, like, everybody's on the lockdown, and I'm watching one of his videos, and he's like, I need help with my website. I need somebody out there who knows SEO. You know, if you know anything, send me an email. So I sent him a video.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, man, look, this is what I do. These are my stats. These are my revenue numbers. I think I can help you.
Yeah.
So the next day I was hired. So he's like,
Sweet.
let's do this. And that introduced me to like the world of his circles of friends, right? And so getting back to the COVID thing, this is where I flipped the switch.
Yeah.
So I was just like everybody else, drinking the Kool-Aid, trusting the government, thinking what the news was saying was real.
Yep.
Hook, line, and sinker all the way. You know, I was obsessing over like COVID numbers and watching them go up on Google, and you know, I'm like, this is the real deal. And then now I'm in the world of finance. I'm talking to like a hedge fund guy who lives on the other side of the planet, and he's like, you didn't take the COVID vaccine, right? And I'm like, no. And he's like, whatever you do not take that COVID vaccine. All right. And he started kind of laying out the reason why. And he's like, all of this is a setup. He's like, and I'm like, no way, man. He's like, watch, you're gonna find out. This thing is a setup.
Yep.
And they want you to take that vaccine.
Yep.
Right. And this is where you start getting into really into the weeds, the World Economic Forum, the population agenda, the limits of growth. This vaccine, let alone the receipts that they're going to earn on the end, the revenue that they're going to draw from NIH and stuff like that as a byproduct
Literally
of it.
just keeping enough dumb people to dig their ditches,
Yeah, man,
because like in Europe, that's a huge problem,
Yeah.
right? Like population decline, like it's
massive. It's everywhere.
Yeah,
It's everywhere, but like China and India.
It's just like too many people went to college, and there's just not enough
Yeah.
people,
Well, when you start thinking about like the Great Replacement theory, which is what was happening with the immigration influx, right? That's right out of the World Economic Forum playbook. They're doing the same thing over there. That's why we're all co-opted by your EU. Like Trump came out and said, like the EU's trying to kill us, right?
Yeah.
Trying to bring us down. When you start looking at what the European Union is doing, how we are funneling money to like the World Economic Forum, and how these oligarchs and global elites in quotes would show up on their jets to Davos and start scheming about how they're going to make this one world global government under surveillance and so forth. I mean, that's exactly what it is, and they used the last administration to try to push it on us.
Yep.
Right.
I love this, but I have to get in the cold plunge.
Is it time?
Yeah, let's take a quick break.
Yeah.
This episode of the Banya is brought to you by Optimize. Optimize is a health and wellness center run by Jesse Meringue, a fellow training partner of ours. They've got amazing center. They've got your cold plunge, your sauna, the infrared, the hot tub, compression therapy, as well as this PEMF therapy. It's like pulse electromagnetic field. It's amazing. Feels crazy, like you get that electro stim. But the idea is you've got a time in there for an hour to switch between different therapies. You can go from the sauna to the cold plunge to the hot tub. Feels amazing. Luke and I just did that last week, and absolutely, it was incredible. So if you're looking to recover from any sort of athletics or just to feel better, go check out Optimize. And for anybody, the listeners, if you just tell them you heard it on the Banya, they'll give you 50% off your first session. So I believe normally it's $39 for the first session for an hour, so it'll be half that. So go check them out. It's an amazing place.
Yeah, it's like it's the Delta 9 stuff, so it's a little loophole. It's
Yeah.
The Farm Bill made it legal.
Change the molecule just a little bit.
They harvested earlier.
Yeah.
So it's like
Not be able to do it anymore.
But it has to contain less than 3% of THC, but then it can be jacked up on Delta 9.
Oh,
so
I
it's
see.
like this cool little bylaw, and
Is that how the so
man.
you guys gonna be okay with that in terms of like the beverages and stuff? Like they're not gonna like yank the.
so
blood on ya?
they could, like they did that in California,
Yeah.
but the weed lobby's so strong in California that they're the ones that actually got it shut down because they're bitter jealous because like there's no regs on that stuff and they're regulated to hell.
Yeah.
So they fought it and won. But Newsom and the Attorney General are getting their sued up the ass.
Good.
So
Fuck those
they'll
guys.
probably turn it back on, but it's crazy. Like it's like weed's already legal. Why is this illegal now?
Yeah.
So it's just all money and politics, you know.
That's what it
Fucking
is.
horrible, but it's so fun for me. Like it's like just a brand new thing.
Yeah.
We're actually doing a collaboration with Cabay.
Are you?
Yep.
Oh,
So we're
cool.
doing we put the wolf logo on one. We're having it made by this super cool producer called Endo out in
Nice.
Pennsylvania.
Very cool.
And so yeah, that'll be out in like a month or so.
And you can go across the borders, right? Like
Yeah.
the
It's
state borders?
the exact opposite of marijuana. So federally, it's completely legal.
Yeah.
State by state, they did it. In some states, it's illegal. Some states, it's not regulated yet.
Makes
and
sense.
like Arizona voted on it. They kicked it. It was supposed to be voted on Monday, and they kept pushing it. I think I need to. I haven't talked
Check
to
up on
our attorney yet on it, but it should be good because the major distributors are for it, and they usually get whatever they want. So.
That's wild, man.
Yeah. No, it's rad. So yeah, but getting back to it, so you like COVID was a big catalyst for you.
Oh, it was huge, man. When I started talking to the smart people, and that I got ostracized as a result of that. You know, it was because, you know, all my friends, all my jiu-jitsu friends were like my friends, and they were all in the medical community. So like one of my best friends is an orthopedic surgeon, for example.
Yeah.
And so it was like, once I started kind of getting the download from the money people, it was really difficult talking to the health people because they're so indoctrinated, right? It's like they get their mark. I mean, and they're so like the ego is like at 11, and they just feel like they know everything, right?
Yeah.
So it's like when you start to challenge them, you're like, okay, this is a losing battle. There's no way I'm going to convince anybody of anything, right?
Yeah.
So then I went reclusive. I like stopped hanging out with those people. I just, because I'm getting the download, and I'm like, this guy's making way more sense, and he puts his money where his mouth is.
Yeah.
And he knows what's up, and this isn't his first rodeo. Like he already has a contrarian skeptic distrust for the global order, right? And so he already knew right off the bat. He's like, dude, this shit, like we couldn't like parse out like, was this a lab leak? But we all knew it was a lab leak.
Yeah.
You know, it was pretty obvious. Occam's razor kind of told you that.
Right.
You know, and it was like, oh, it's a little suspicious that everybody came out with a vaccine at the same fucking time.
Right.
You know, and this thing, you know, it's like, and at the time it was like, we all were led to believe like, oh, it takes 10 years, you know, to like get something off the ground like this. And like, you got like 3 companies coming out with one at the same time.
Right.
Russia's got their version of it, you know, China's got their version of it, you know, and you're just like, you know, it's like, seems to me like that's a little suspicious that they'd have like the antidote for the problem that was supposedly came from a wet market. You're like, huh. So you know, and then you see the establishment start to like change the definitions of things. You know, you're like, oh, the propaganda campaign is starting to pick up.
Yep.
Right. And so it's like you start connecting those dots, and you're like, yeah, some shit's up, you know. And then of course at work they're trying to push that vaccine, get that vaccine. And that was like, okay, I quit. I'm out. We're moving. We're getting the fuck out of here. We're going to Arizona. I came out to Arizona one time during the COVID, and it was the complete opposite. It was like 10 to 1 people, you know, 10 to 1, 9 to 1 people weren't wearing masks as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah.
It still sucked though.
Yeah, it still sucked. You know, I don't think there was like maybe Florida, you know, at the time was probably the best place, but Arizona compared to California was like, it was like moving to Florida for me, you know.
Right.
And it took my wife, like, at the time, it took her, like, a couple of weeks for her to, like, you know, she's still wearing her mask. Now she's looking like the dummy.
Yeah.
Walking around, and you're just like, at what point are you going to, like, tear off the mask due to peer pressure?
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, it's basically kind of inevitable what happened. So, yeah, I think if I had not fallen into this circle of financial people who had their kind of eye on the ball better than like anybody I knew.
Probably why they do well, right? Is because they see the big picture of things, like how things actually are moving.
That's the secret to like proper investing, is having a macroeconomic understanding of capital flows and like where the money is going, where it's heading. You know, what is bullshit and it's constantly subsidized by the government that's never going to work, but they're forcing it, trying to make it work. What is it that, you know, society is going to like rely on that actually works, you know? So maybe that's not in favor right now because they're pushing, say, like a Green New Deal, you know, like an energy thing that doesn't work.
Right.
But they're just shoving it down everybody's throats and they're pumping all this money into it. Meanwhile,
did you see that video of the Tesla charger station, and then the guy's got the video on it, and then he follows the electrical cables and he's going over to a diesel generator?
Yeah. I mean, that sums it up perfectly.
Right.
Right. You know, so like the whole renewable thing we all knew was like going to fall apart, especially when the subsidies stopped showing up.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, where do we park our money? We're like, well, get back into the shit that people actually use. It's not favorable, but like, you know, things like coal, you know, like fucking coal. You know who's burning a lot of coal right now?
China.
Well, China, of course, they're building like 400 new coal plants, but Europe, Germany, those places, because they severed their industrial base. Like their energy was coming from Russia.
Right, from Russia.
And so their liquid natural gas is all gone. And they're fucking starving. So what are they burning over there? They're burning wood and coal. They dismantled their nuclear power facilities.
That's so much better for the environment, though.
Yeah, so it's all contradictory.
Do you know Do you know what time it is, Dana?
What time is it?
It's time for me to talk about my favorite conspiracy.
Oh yeah,
dude, I can't get off this. I love it. So, oil is a regenerative resource that the Earth is constantly producing.
Yeah.
Not decompose dinosaurs. I mean, that might be part of it, but it's going to keep decomposing whatever's, next.
You got to understand, there's so many layers of vegetation going over millions and millions of years.
So that's my new favorite one. Yeah. It's like you've just been fed that Sinclair dinosaur, melted dinosaur thing. It's gonna run out one day.
Another one of those like history book things or
it's like
science
it's
books.
Like the diamond thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's not that rare.
They're not rare at all.
I mean, it's hard to get, but it's gonna keep flowing.
They control the supply. They vault it. They keep it locked up. And
they're playing that fine line of like, we don't want people to hate fuel so much that they don't use it, but it's very rare and it's gonna run out.
Right.
So. Well, and all this Green New Deal stuff. If they really were wanting an actual solution, you'd be pouring research into nuclear and starting to use more nuclear. That is the answer.
And they do. Small modular reactors exist today. They're things. They are an answer. They're a very quick solution. If you're to build a traditional nuclear reactor facility, I mean that takes 10 years and a lot of regulation just to even break ground for the most part. So it's not a quick turnaround on that technology, which is the long-term solution to the problem. But
it should have been something we've been working on for 50 years.
Yeah. They use, and that's the irony of the whole green thing too. Is like it's like it is literally zero emissions, and the greenies never really wanted to touch it.
No,
they always kind of not talk about it because they were pushing solar panels and windmills.
Yeah,
well, and
they feel good. It's a virtue thing.
Oh yeah, and those things are so toxic, and it's like all they do is offset the emissions to another country.
Yep.
Bad for the environment. And they kill wildlife.
Yep.
And China owns 98% of the solar panel production, from mineral rights to everything. So it's like, okay, if you go that route, you're just on the hook with China again, right?
They're making our vaccine. Yeah,
they're doing everything. It's like that was another thing COVID brought up. That whole pandemic was how much
the
supply chains relied on China's, our military, our healthcare, everything. And so as a result of that, it just kind of opens a lot of guys' eyes. You're talking about the Enlightenment period, this period of people waking up and seeing things, and this is the stuff that's starting to kind of come out. Unfortunately, still the majority of people are kind of not paying attention to it, mainly because life gets in the way. It's like I don't have time to go down that rabbit hole. I just want to get home, drink a beer, and hang out with my kids and go to bed.
Right.
So until it really affects them in their personal lives, they're not forced to look at it.
Yep. And that's the vast majority. Let's say 90% of people, they just aren't going to be paying attention to enough to speak up or to
do anything.
Turn off the football game and actually do
bread
something
and circus.
It is bread and circus. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're way too easily tricked.
Yeah.
And I catch myself doing it.
Human beings are that way, though. That's the thing about human beings. It's the foibles of the human condition is that we're just so easily manipulated in propaganda, in authority. Two of the major variables in that equation of getting you to do something.
Yeah, I mean, if we have our basics down, you got somewhere to live, you can make enough money to take care of your family.
Yeah,
you got some
hierarchy
entertainment,
needs, security, love, food, shelter. It's all we need, right?
Yeah.
So keep it simple. Problem is they keep limiting our rights and our freedoms. You can't use incandescent light bulbs anymore. So then you get the bullshit blue ones, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, you can't have a gas furnace in your house anymore.
California,
you get the electric one.
You can't have a stove, wood-fired stuff.
Yeah, but you know what? Your power bills hasn't gone down.
Right.
Right.
No.
All this bullshit you're buying into hasn't improved your life at all.
No.
It just makes you angrier because you're staring at blue fucking fluorescence all day long. And when the power goes out, you can't have a stove going or a hot shower.
Right.
We were talking about this in the thread of farming and how scary it would be the lab created meats and stuff. Imagine one day farming becomes illegal or raising animals.
Well, they're trying it. You see what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden your meat comes from you have to buy it. There's no other way to get it.
We're gonna patent it. Bill Gates is gonna own it.
Imagine how controllable you'd be at that point, right?
Yeah,
it's good luck.
It's creepy, and like I said, it's one of these globalist, New World Order-ish games that they play, right?
Well, yeah, because people then at that level, they're so high above where they see themselves that people are just they're pawns to move around to manipulate to let's play these games, let's try it. It's like trading places. It's kind of fun. You have a $1 bet to ruin this guy's life.
Right.
This is kind of how these elites in Davos, they picture us.
Yeah, human beings are nothing but a unit of account. They're not. We're not warm-blooded bodies with emotions or a soul to them. We're just units of account. How do we move these units of account around? How do we corral them, keep control over them, feed them the shit that we want to feed them so we can get paid? And at a certain point, it's like you're a billionaire and you've been a billionaire so long, you've tickled everything you want to tickle. You've checked the boxes and everything you want to check.
You gotta be Dr. Evil now.
Yeah, there's only so many yachts you can hang out on with big, beautiful.
Let's start messing with the world.
It's like before you know it, and then they're in their own little echo chambers, and it all sounds good to them.
Yeah.
Do you know Joel Keck?
Sounds familiar.
He trains a lot 6 a.m.
Yeah, Joel. Yeah, Joel.
So he sent me this funny clip from Bill Gates the other day, and it was like, a lot of people think that. I made I made a ton of money on the vaccine, and I dumped it in the right times, and I was part of the whole, this and
Cabal,
that. And then he goes, people will do their own research and they'll decide on their own. Like, so, and then the caption was like, it's funny how he didn't say that he didn't do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
He just like kind of roundabouted it, like very obviously too.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's scary. Like, how do you get to be that rich? I mean, like you said, I guess you have nothing else to check off, but like, dude, what's driving you to be this Dr. Evil figure and like fuck with people and that's to that level?
Not to get into Epstein's Island or anything, but that's kind of what ends up happening.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
It ends up becoming honeypots, and in some respect, like you're going out there to do your jollies, like get your kicks off on something that's dark and evil, and you're getting what you can get away with.
So
it.
like that scenario, big pharma funds Epstein Island, or they're a client of Epstein, and he's got these videos on Bill Gates, and then pharma goes, "Hey, Bill, you better start pushing these vaccines, my guy, or else
I think Bill Gates beats to his own drum because his dad was a depopulation eugenist. The Limits of Growth was written by this guy
he
Thomas
went to
Malthus.
Epstein though, right?
Bill Gates did, yeah.
I
don't know about his dad. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But the whole Club of Rome, which is like the early World Economic Forum back in the 60s, 70s, that's where Bill Gates' dad hung out. So Bill Gates grew up being basically a eugenist, like depopulation.
So I thought he was a self-made dude. No.
Yeah, no. After he stole that software.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, I know like the childhood version of him.
Most of
guy in the garage makes a computer. And
most of these people don't become they don't get into they're groomed for the power that they have. They don't necessarily stumble into it because they worked hard. Right? And that goes back like fucking thousands of years. You can look at families that have been transferring their wealth generation over generation, Rothschilds, things like that. There's a lot
of Yetis.
There's a lot
Colonel Sanders before he went tits up.
Yeah, right.
From So I Married an Axe Murderer. Have you seen that?
Yeah, not in a long time.
So
Mike Myers.
Go back and watch it. It's funny. The mom in the kitchen with the. Where do you get your news from, Mom? And it's like one of those like onion type things. He's like, here. Man gives birth. That's a fact. It's funny to like watch that now and know that like today people like
actually believe that
shit.
shit.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like it was so outlandish satire like not even 15 years ago.
Yeah. Well, that's another. I think that just kind of touches on like another fundamental rule of nature is that things work in cycles and things are polarized always. There's good and evil. There's love and hate. There's north and south. And people's behaviors tend to flip too.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like yesterday's Republicans are today's Democrats.
Right.
Or liberals or
right.
You start to shift or yesterday's.
That's happened in the past. Did you know that?
Like, absolutely.
The Democrats like Civil War era.
It's very cyclical.
Were more Republican as far as values go.
So it's extreme. It's like I said, it's flowing in cycles, right? And you have these polar shifts that happen in those cycles.
It went so hard this time that it did invert them.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah,
like it got a little bit of that happening because that can happen to a certain point, but it's like the axis have flipped.
Right, and that's where people start to wake up and they start to understand like, hey, wait a minute, something's afoul here.
Yeah.
And then that's when you have this enlightening period. It's that old saying like hard times make good men make hard times. Hard times make good men, and good men make hard times. That whole cycle.
Yeah.
And it's generational. It happens throughout humans. Generate. It's like.
So I want to kind of lay it out. So hard times
Make
or,
good men.
yeah, hard times make good men. Good men make good times.
They
Good
make
times.
hard times. Good men make hard times, right? Because
Well, yes.
the
eventually.
Justin Trudeau's of the world,
make
the
soft. So
Bidens.
good men make soft
Well, that's not
times.
Oh yeah. I'm getting
No,
it backwards
you-
too.
Yeah.
You
And
had
then
it right. Yeah, you had it right.
and then
Yeah.
soft times make hard men.
Right.
And then so the
I was like,
cycle.
wait,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
Justin
We're
Trudeau
missing the
good
soft
man?
piece.
You nailed it. Yeah. Justin Trudeau's a great guy, and he's just, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's just like the hard times end up turning into hard work
Yeah.
to get out of it, and then as a result of that hard work, you're now chilling in good times, and you just make a bunch of weak fucking leaders as a result of that. Mm-hmm. And then those guys just bring heavy, hard times again because they suck.
Right.
And the cycle just kind of works itself through.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I would say we're still kind of like in that last ending stretch of like the fourth turning, which is
Right.
another cycle that's lasts about 80 years, a human lifespan.
Yep.
4 generations. And now we're kind of at a point in time where we're at like we have a debt bubble, a sovereign debt crisis that's on us. We have a 250-year like revolutionary cycle that's picking back up again.
Yep.
And so there's a lot going on in terms of cycles, and there's probably 3 or 4 more. I can't even remember.
Are we
right now.
about to get back into manufacturing?
I think we will, but it's probably not going to happen overnight, right?
No, it takes a while. I mean,
Yeah.
at least there
That'll be
was
another cycle
the
in macro.
TSMC is
Yeah.
good. Taiwan Semiconductor.
They're gonna
at least
bring some
building
stuff
stuff here in
over.
Arizona, a lot in here.
Yeah.
Which is great. But like you said, it takes time, and I that's my business is in manufacturing. So I'm not in the business of manufacturing, but I sell equipment to them. So I'm
Yeah.
just seeing there's manufacturing everywhere.
Yeah, you can see the capital flowing
It's
in.
wild.
Right. And so that whole onshoring thing is like a big deal. It's real. And with the tariff talk, which everybody's thinking of right now, everybody's talking about tariffs because tariffs are extremely volatile to the markets.
Right.
And so the volatility is going to cause the stock market to react. It's going to cause the bond market to react. It's
Yep.
going to cause gold to react. It's going to cause a lot of things. Uncertainty, just the markets don't like it.
Yep.
But
But long term, I mean,
Long-term,
the
it
strength of the economy is what the idea is,
you,
right?
you incentivize companies like Honda to like start producing more of their Honda Civics in like say in
Ohio,
in Alabama or,
wherever.
Ohio
Yeah,
or wherever it is,
Uh-huh.
as opposed to doing it in Mexico because it's like okay now it's cost prohibitive,
Yep.
so we got to start doing it. So you're starting to see a lot of that, like companies that already do business here are starting to pick up their pace and doing more business here simply because they're afraid of the tariffs.
Yeah.
And-
Well, and even before that, so I know, like, probably, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, you start to see more, like, I know for a while when I was a kid, like, Made in America was a thing to some degree.
Oh yeah, dude, it was pride. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And there was maybe like a 20-year gap, and now it's like really coming back around again, where you see more Made in America and sourcing all the material and everything in America, which is it's very difficult to do, just because we've outsourced everything. So just the whole supply chain is not really made for it.
Not here.
Like the guys at Origin, it's funny, like Jocko talking about this. Just trying to make jeans in the U.S.
Good luck.
and he had to find like old machinery that could do this stuff because it just didn't exist. You have to rebuild it and
just to sew the geese together.
Exactly.
They didn't have that. They didn't have the sewing machines, the industrial level sewing machines to handle that kind of material. Mm-hmm. They were already scrapped and brought over to Pakistan and stuff.
Yeah, but it takes that, like, the initial spark of I want to do everything made in America or whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
And you start there and you're like realizing, oh crap, there is way more behind this. It's not just, hey, let me just order some denim that I can sew together. Let me just get these, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You realize all of these things behind it, but it takes more people like that, like entrepreneurs to say, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to actually fight for this rather than just taking the easy route of going overseas and being public about it, which is nice with like the enlightenment of information,
Right.
and sharing on social media to be like, hey, we're all in America, this is the process, and actually walking people through it, people seeing the process and like seeing the genuine like nature of all of it, like that's what people want. We actually crave that genuine nature,
The authenticity. Is the new thing, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And being authentic, like no matter whether you fail, whether you succeed, doesn't matter. Like showing the authenticity is what's going to actually drive growth as a brand for a person, a company, whatever.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and nowadays that's the hippest thing to do for your company is you get out in front and you become a personal brand who happens to own the company.
Right.
Right. That's really what it is now. Like that's the bread and butter for today's marketing funnel is just to be a good brand ambassador and put yourself out there.
Get behind whatever work you're doing, and being able to stand behind it, like, or build something you just enjoy doing and showing authenticity through that. Like, it's kind of why we wanted to start this podcast as well. As like, it's fun for us, like for anybody listening, we just enjoy this. Hopefully we can grow this to something bigger, but if not, we're going to enjoy doing it because it's fun, and sharing information, having amazing talks and guests like you is awesome to really expand, what we're talking about and the listeners and everything. So it's fantastic.
It's a great time to be alive, to be able to do this kind of stuff,
It is.
Because it was a really hard thing to do 10, 15, 20 years ago,
And we can talk about, all the globalists and everybody trying to control everybody. But if we look at it, we're extremely blessed just to be born in America. Let's just start there. Like, we're just of the top percent.
You
of
win
people.
the lottery.
You win the So making sure that we're still very grateful of that, and understanding
and being grateful,
that.
and then also making sure that none of it's taken away from you. I think is the huge push now.
Yeah, that's the scary part.
Because they want to take it away from you now.
Yeah.
Well, and there's more and more countries, like in the UK, that you can be thrown in jail for your speech.
Oh yeah, your memes, dude.
Yeah. It's crazy that people are just accepting of that because of the propaganda machine. It's like, no, it's hate speech. We got to control that. It's like, who controls it?
Well, they control all the media. And so they're feeding the same propaganda narrative over and over and over again.
Yep.
And unless you're really experiencing it on the ground level, like you're being attacked or assaulted, and you're seeing that thing in the streets, you're probably not, getting the truth.
Yeah.
You're getting you're getting their angle, and their angle is like, we need more, bleeding hearts, and we need more productivity,
virtue, and being, show how good you are with all of this. But behind the scenes, is like,
they're a
what
bunch
are you
of racist
losing?
motherfuckers over there, and they're literally passing laws. So if you're a white guy talking about memes and you go to jail, you're gonna get less time than somebody's raping a kid,
right?
That comes from another country, who's an immigrant. That is actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
That was just passed over there. And you're just like, how far down they're gonna have to feel the real pain of the macroeconomic effects of their poor decision making.
Right.
We have the dollar hegemon, so we can print our way out of these problems, but they can't.
Yeah.
They're at the mercy of a central bank that's just going to rapidly inflate their currency away to try to keep up with the dollar.
Right.
And now we just kind of stepped away from the Ukraine thing. And so, and they're they're hell-bent on the World War III over there.
Right.
So now they're going to have to start funding that. That's inflationary. Mm-hmm. So the question becomes like, okay, how are they going to do that? I mean, there are already a bunch of weak leaders over there.
Right.
And you're going to go after the guy in Russia? It's like, good luck. And you needed us to do it.
Yeah.
And now we're not there anymore. What are you going to do?
Yeah, it's scary times for what's happening.
The European Union's going to dissolve probably in the next 3 to 5 years. Like, it won't be a thing anymore.
Yeah.
It's going to be each country.
How do you make money hedging that?
Just buy the stuff that people need.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the day,
energy. Jeans picks.
The energy complex is going to be fossil fuels. It's going to be oil, offshore oil service providers, nuclear, uranium scarce. It's going to be things like coal, like silly shit that you would never even consider investing in, the things that we fall back to.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm cooking again. You want to get another cold plunge and we'll come back in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Can't wait for you guys to open that store. I'll probably be your number one customer over there. Dude, I'm telling you, it's going to be
a subscription service. Yeah. 50 millis a day.
It's going to work.
Yeah, dude. It's yeah. Oh man, I love that cold plunge.
Yeah. I'm just noticing. Never recognized it before, but coming into here, into the sauna after the cold plunge, the room feels larger. The longer we're in here, the more heated up. It feels smaller, like in just like my perception of it.
Yeah.
It feels like the air's fresher.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. But it's still the same temperature it was 5 minutes ago when we got out of here.
Yeah, dude. Feels good.
I gotta give a quick shout out to Josh, our morning AM Savage Training partner. He gave us a fat pile of super good wood to burn, so appreciate you, Josh. Keep it coming, bud.
Gotta keep the sauna burning.
Yep.
Yeah. Now it's a good setup you guys have here.
Heck yeah. Well, you got anything else? You gonna any tournaments on the horizon?
No,
are you competing anymore? Are you?
I haven't been focused on it. I really need to cut down on my traveling.
Yeah.
It seems like I'm just everywhere all the time. So I get home and I'm home for maybe a month, and then I'm on another trip. And it's funny. It's like in my world, it's like I keep getting invited to stuff, and it's hard to say no because it's really cool shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I keep saying no, they'll stop asking me.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of like this momentum where it's like I got to keep it going, but I got to get selective because it's like how many trips down to Colombia do I want to take?
Yeah.
Can't you tell him just keep asking me, but I gotta do some things?
Yeah, I probably could. He'd probably be okay with that.
Well, that's a good point, actually. Like, because when I was talking to Luke about you, just getting ready for the podcast, just like telling him that you just know everybody. So you've trained with like a ton of people just in jiu-jitsu, but just around the world. That you were just telling us earlier, Ron Paul and
I don't know him personally. I met him and hung out with him, and yeah, again, it's like I'm lucky, I'm grateful, and just super lucky to be kind of in a couple of circles where there's a lot of influential people.
Yeah.
And you just get introduced to people you never thought you'd ever get introduced to.
Yeah.
Or you go to places you never thought you'd ever go,
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know how I got into it, but I just, it's a lot of things. It's like being a loyal person. Like if you have the ability to kind of see ahead and go, you know what, these are great people. They are where the action is. Like, how can I get into this group and not be like the asshole who fucks everything up, right? And so I've always just kind of came at it with just a sense of like gratitude and loyalty.
Yeah.
So when I get the call and somebody needs something, there's no like hooing or hawing. It's like I'm there for you.
Yeah.
And I think I've done that enough times for people where it's like I'm part of the family. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's just been my way of operating, is always trying to be loyal to the people that have always treated me well. Always been grateful for the circles I get to participate in, and then always just being useful when I need to be useful. Because not everybody has like my skills, and I don't obviously have their skills, but when they recognize I can help them with something, whether it's web related or marketing related or something like that, they could ask me, and I can help them with that.
Yeah,
so it's gone a long ways.
It's kind of crazy how low the bar is in that arena, where like I'm in an industry where like the commonplace is like the big companies like screw all their partners over. Like that's just kind of the way it is, and like what we did was we went into that same space, but we just built it to where like we actually do a good, like our best job. Like our success is tied in with our customers. Like we built out the model that way. And it's just like, I can't tell you how many times like people have been like, dude, what? Like, I can't even believe this is a thing, but it's such a simple concept.
Right.
And it just like, it pays it for itself. Like it's the less greedy way, but in the long run, it just like, it builds you like a loyal customer base, and like everybody's way happier dealing with that than just like the normal, like, I got to work with these guys, but they're going to do this and that to fuck me over down the road,
a rising tide raises all boats, right? So
yeah,
like,
but
they're all on the same water.
That mentality is just not very common, though.
I know. Yeah, it's too bad.
Well, it takes people, having that mentality and sharing that and being like, hey, this is what it really should be, versus the way it is in a lot of cases. And that'll change, hopefully, or at least I've got the optimism to say it'll change, because as an individual level, you can change yourself and you can influence other individuals, right?
Right.
But you get these people that just want to change the world. Like, it's just such a big out there thing. Like, how are you going to change that? You can't. It's like,
fix yourself, dude. Learn to make your fucking bed, right? Like, the
Jordan
Peterson thing.
Yeah, clean up your room, man.
Yeah, start there before you're trying to tackle the universe.
Right.
It's like tackle yourself. And I know personally, I mean, that's been a huge part of my life, is just personal growth. Because there's a lot you have to unlearn and undig.
Yep.
And that was my whole life. Is like I spent my entire adult life just undigging and unlearning all the things that were kind of, told to me.
Yeah.
And that naturally, that energy, I think that energy resonates with the people that are the same way.
Yeah.
And so then all of a sudden you keep that energy going, and then everybody's kind of vibrating at the same levels in your circles.
Yeah.
They're all, before you know it, you're surrounded by entrepreneurs who've already had a level of success that you're just wishing for, dying for, dreaming for. And they all had a similar experience in terms of their personal growth and journeys. And before you know it, it's like they want to help you. They want to mentor you. and they're there for you if you ask, and that's a beautiful thing. And it all kind of resonates from that whole, like, stop being an asshole.
Yeah.
Stop being selfish. Stop being angry at the world. Everything happens for a reason. Take it for what it's worth. There's a lesson there.
Yep.
Whether you like it or not, you should choose the higher road, and take it as a learning. Take responsibility. Basically, is what it really boils down to.
Yeah.
Even if you end up in a fucking dark alley and you get robbed and beat up, you can be angry at the guy that robbed you and beat you up, but you have to take responsibility for the fact that you were in a dark alley where you shouldn't have been.
Where the hell? Yeah,
right? Like, you could have took the steps, and it's not that you were right or wrong. It's the fact that it's how are you going to frame this so you can move on with your life? Right.
And learn from it. Like, how did I get to that position where I was in the dark alley? And obviously that's a metaphor. The dark alley is just shitty things that happen in our life, but we played a part to put ourselves in that place.
Right.
Whatever steps led to that, it could be 30 steps back, but working your way back and say, at this point, I made a decision to go here, and that caused me to go here.
Yeah.
But I was the one who chose that.
Right.
And it's agency, and everybody has their agency to be able to say, hey,
I didn't have to go out tonight. I didn't have to get drunk. I didn't have to, like, stumble in and be brave and be the white knight, try to stop that guy from hitting his girl and then getting stabbed in the stomach. It's like, you can play it out. And again, it's like, whether you're right or wrong, that's not the point. The point is like, you have to frame it so that you can move on with your life.
Right.
More of being a person who learned something as opposed to being a victim.
Right.
Because there's too many victims in life, and you see it, and they're always pointing at somebody else. It's always somebody else's fault. And I think that's the big difference that cuts the people that I stick. Jiu-Jitsu is a good example of that. The people that we train with, we're not victims. We kind of beat that out of us, And, like, again, I go back to, like, how you show up here is how you show up everywhere. When you start to beat all that bullshit out of your body, out of your life, out of your brain, you start looking at the world differently, and it becomes one big, school ground where it's just all about education and learning. And maybe that's why we're here, to experience these things, good or bad, and take something away that you just can't get somewhere else. It could be that. I don't know, but it's worked for me, and I think that positive energy, that lack of victimhood, resonates with people, because nobody likes whiners. We all go through our shit. Yeah. And we're all there for each other when we go through our shit. But, like, if you're just a person, it's always somebody else's fault. Yeah. It's like, I don't have time for you.
Yeah.
Like, you failed. You failed the test, dude. Sorry.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
That was a big one. I mean, that's how I met most of my friends. Like, a lot of my big friends I got from emotional intelligence training.
Do you remember the guy's name that was on Rogan 3? The hypnotist, like,
I don't
he
remember.
studied.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know you're talking about.
You probably know this guy. It was super. Do you listen to Rogan at all?
Oh yeah, for sure.
He was on, like, 3 pods ago. He like worked with Colts. He worked in the government.
Chase Hughes.
Yeah, dude, that was so interesting.
Yeah, I was totally right along with him. Like, I went to school for hypnotherapy. Like, I actually got credentialed to be a hypnotherapist.
Nice.
And it was mind-blowing, for one, to just kind of realize, like, oh, you can take.
Have you ever messed around with that, like, try to control somebody? I was joking. I was going to try some of the tactics out on Dana.
It's kind of like...
hey, here, hold this. Can you take some notes, Dana? I need to... And now I'm the authority in the room.
Yeah, it's a bit like reading a parachute book and then going parachuting.
Oh,
You're just like, I don't think this is going to end well. Like, I got to get out there and, like, put the reps in. I got to practice it.
Yep.
Like, like, I got to go out there with, like, a game plan. And then, because you're a white belt, so it's like you watch a technique on YouTube, and then you're like, okay, I got to go to class and, like, practice this. I'm not going to pull off a flying armbar in the street for the first time.
You just gotta start with, like, a government employee or something.
Somebody low on the totem
Just kidding. Pole. Anybody a government employee?
Well, a lot of it is like you slow down your speech, slow down your tone of voice, and then you're really just kind of getting them into a rhythm. It's like you start getting a little bit of you're getting relaxed, you're calming down, taking deep breaths.
The thing that's gotten me there before is actually comedy. So, like, when you you throw on, like, a Louis C.K. bit, and he's like saying all this stuff, and, like, it's crazy shit, but you're like, inside my head, I'm, like, agreeing with him, like, that's right. And then he throws in the punchline, and you're like, oh shit, wait. You know what I'm saying? It's like they like lull you into this.
They're bringing you into a trance with pacing and timing, right?
Yeah.
And but they're doing it to make it funny.
Yeah.
Right.
Some politicians will do it to just feed you propaganda.
Yeah.
A hypnotist will do it for fun on stage, or he might do it for performance.
So that guy's whole thing was like, how can we use this for good?
Right.
Like, let's change people for the better.
There's totally some dark arts.
Yeah. yeah.
I mean, you just look at like the pickup game, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the tactics. You're using a lot of you're using a lot of hypnotherapy, and you're using a lot of just psychology, right? Like there are things that men and women will respond to, right? And if you can do it in a subtle way, and you've been practicing it long enough, it's like before you know it, you're taking someone home, and you're just like, fuck, that was easy.
Yeah.
And it really is just kind of like the dark arts. It's like the persuasion. Again, like I said earlier, it's like human beings are so easily programmed and propagandized, And so, that's why tribalism is such a big thing. That's why we have professional sports and people dedicate their entire lives to some fucking sports team.
Yep.
It's a tribal thing. It's human beings are just like resonating mechanical meat suits that are just trying to find something with equal resonance so they can resonate together and make one big fucking hive mind.
Yeah.
And the zeitgeist of just the human conscious is a real thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's like the connection of like just tribalism in general, just having that connection with other people like you for whatever the reason is. I mean, I'll call myself out for this. I'm heading to Kansas tomorrow to go watch Arizona play.
Yeah, your
Kansas basketball.
Part of your tribe, right?
It's part of the tribe. Yeah. And it's
I
exciting.
don't
It's fun.
understand it.
I mean, it's natural. It's perfectly natural.
Right.
That people do that. The thing is like you got to catch yourself from getting too involved into it.
Right.
And before you know it, you're in a cult. And then all of a sudden
You've got a Dodgers tattoo on your neck.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's the important thing, especially nowadays, is because things have become so tribal.
Yeah.
And there's a rift. I mean, it's like things we've been talking about for years. It's things like civil war and stuff in this country. Because how do you resolve the extremes of the left and the extremes of the right? Like you can't convince like a liberal like being like Doge going through and auditing the federal government is a good thing. Like,
right.
They just don't want to accept that.
Right.
And it's like, okay, I can sit here and scream at you. I could try to influence you, but I just don't think the needle's moving. So I'm better off just being on my own,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and the proof's going to be in the pudding. You
Yeah.
know, what's going to happen with Doge and showing that the actual results, at least the transparency's there, so they can back it up, and enough people to be like, all right, well,
Yeah.
you can scream at this all you want, but here's the proof. Here's what's actually happening.
But it just blows my mind that there are people out there that just will not accept it.
Yeah.
Right. Like they will not. They'll attack you, but they won't attack the fact.
Right.
Right. And then you go, okay, this is a type of person. That's why I'm like, okay, you can't convince that. And now you have 350 million people in the country, and let's just say 40 or 50% of those people are thinking that way. All right. And it's like at some point when economic constraints get so bad that they're not doing so well over there, and then they're like, they want to come here. We see it in Arizona.
Yeah.
When it's like, yeah, you can move here, but keep your politics over there.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, at what point does that become more volatile and more extreme? It's only 2025, like 2020, 2030, 2035. It's going to get really wild here. Right. Because you got this guy in office for 4 years. Who's coming after him? He's
Right.
done.
Yeah.
So he's going to put all this, executive order stuff together, and he's going to unwind a lot of regulation and all kinds of stuff that's been just detrimental to the economy.
Yep.
And then somebody might just come back in and just wind it all back up. Unless they turn it into like actual law in Congress.
Right.
These executive orders are just a Band-Aid.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, like Dana said, though, at least we're learning.
Yeah.
I think that the thing that can't hopefully be undone at this point is the fact that there's enough people that are seeing all the bullshit that's going on there.
Yeah.
We've all known it was there for how long,
But
but
now
it's
the
just,
receipts are showing up.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly, and the lack of receipts are showing up. So it's
Yeah.
just like, okay, we got a big problem if we swing back the other way. After
Oh,
this.
absolutely.
It's going to
Yeah.
be very depressing and potentially dangerous times if that happens.
Another contrarian point of view, though, that we got to take into consideration. It's not everybody, but you got to understand how woke the colleges are, the campuses, right? Those are our future leaders. You got to understand, like the people that are going to be in politics and running businesses and stuff are those people that are in the woke indoctrination camps. So somehow they got to get unwoke and unindoctrinated, or they got to go somewhere else.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is like you were talking about Jordan Peterson. This is what he was ringing the bells for 5-10 years ago.
Well, we need less people in college in general.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, dude, and
That's making a swing too, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's totally making its own swing.
Because it's not needed as much
The
anymore.
liberal arts degrees, which I'm guilty of, like, dude, it's just you don't need that information.
It goes back to the government funding shit and getting their dirty hands on stuff, right? So, like, if you couldn't get a student loan from Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, they wouldn't have jacked the prices of tuition up to
Right.
$60,000 a quarter
Yep.
or semester or whatever, and you would have been paying $10,000. You probably went into the community college first, and then worked your ass off to get a scholarship or whatever, and maybe you took out a little bit of money, but an all paid trip, you paid off later.
Yep.
Go get your basket weaving degree.
Yeah.
You know, that was a subsidized program by the government. They
Right.
got into it.
Yeah.
They drive prices up, and shit gets broken.
Yep.
You know, just this is how it goes.
And up until recently, like the one thing you could say, like, okay, a kid leaving college with a liberal arts degree, okay, maybe what they learned is fairly useless, but at least they have like accountability. They have ability to critically think, which is like,
I would say no. I'd say they probably have social skills because they party a lot.
well, maybe that too, but also no, like you do, like if you get through it, like you learn how to critically think. At least
Well,
when I went through it. Now I don't know if that's part
Nah,
of it
because
anymore.
they teach you. They don't teach you how to think. They teach you what
Right.
to think.
What to think. not how to
Purdue
think.
was a very conservative college actually too when I was there.
That's
It was
probably an exception.
Indiana,
That would be an
Midwest.
exception,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was great.
You
And,
still
like,
had good, Bible thumping
Yeah.
Christians kind of running the show out there. So they probably
but
wanted.
but the thing is, there's other things besides college that can teach you that, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, they're not recognized by employers,
Or it's
you know,
demonized.
I
as
think
like,
the military.
oh,
I think the military's making a huge comeback.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably those were the most formidable years for me because I
Yeah.
didn't go to like a traditional college.
Yeah.
Like I just did it part time while I was in the military. Mm-hmm. But the camaraderie you get from living on a boat with a bunch of other dudes, and they're all walks of life, all different ages.
Yeah.
You know, you get exposed to some wild shit.
Yeah, I bet.
And that in its own respect is like an indoctrination in just social intelligence.
Yeah.
Like being able to just function with other people.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's making a big comeback right now because now it's less woke,
Yeah.
less DEI'd out.
Yeah.
They're firing all of the trannies and stuff, and so it's like becoming a real military again.
Right.
So we're getting to a point where it's like it's going to be exciting to go back into the military.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether it's whether you're like in the Navy or, God forbid, the Army or the Marines, where like you could be sent off to battle, which
Right.
I wouldn't recommend. I think the Air Force and Navy are the best personally.
Yeah.
That's just because I was in the Navy. So.
Sure.
But 300 miles away, lobbing missiles at a country is much better than storming a beach with a machine gun.
For
you know?
sure.
But yeah, you get so much out of that. Those years are just so formidable, and you become a man, but under the guise of like this umbrella
Structure
of
and
discipline,
Yeah.
and fun, and structure, and yeah, it's all there. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's like I would encourage people like strongly to start looking at that as an option, just to not go into college like with a bunch of debt.
Yeah.
Or going into a day job working at fucking In-N-Out Burger. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, dude, there's so much you can be doing and seeing the world on top of it.
Yeah.
But like you said, also don't go get yourself killed for something.
Yeah,
that's
don't
like
do something
a
stupid,
chess
man.
game. Because
Yeah.
like it's sad to see those guys like Evan Schaefer, like these high level guys that come back and they're like, he goes, I look at it now, like I was just a pawn.
That's
you know?
what happens to Soldier of Fortune type SecOp guys.
Literally
you know?
just like lost the ability to feel love.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like just shit you like, just
Yeah.
kind of not ruin your life, but like put some heavy
Oh,
stuff
no,
in
it's-
it.
you gotta-
And-
there's a
Well,
lot
for
to
meaning.
unpick there.
I mean, they want to have meaning in what they're doing. So at the
Yeah.
time, like, they're fighting the bad guys,
Well,
right?
that's the biggest thing now. Is like when they start coming out, you're listening to like Sean Ryan and stuff like that. And these guys put their lives on the line for the government, for the flag, for the United States. Then you kind of find out it was just a bunch of fucking politicians at the top starting shit
Yep.
for fun.
Yep.
Making shit up. Like,
Yep.
Like strategizing. They're just using human lives to get it. Mm-hmm. Then you're like, what?
Big
the fuck?
chessboard and just like,
But you
hey.
still have the brotherhood and the camaraderie, and you still have that institution that remains intact. And that's what I'm vying for, not so much the fucking
Right.
assholes at the
Yeah,
top,
yeah,
you
of
know?
course.
And you can hedge those bets by simply just choosing the right job when you go in.
Yeah.
Be smart
Yeah.
about it.
Well, hopefully, get some more meaning back for some of those like operators they were talking about.
Yeah.
Going after the cartels in Mexico.
See, a whole nother,
like,
yes.
There's meaning behind that, and
Yeah.
I guarantee that they're going to be like, "Yep, I'm all for." I mean, I can't
See,
say
that's
this,
a
but,
reason
like,
to go.
There's
Yeah.
a reason, right?
I gotta disagree with you on that one though, Dana. It's just like this war on drugs that we've had. It doesn't. It's
Well, so
somebody else is gonna pop up there. Unless Mexico becomes a more stable
Feels a vacuum.
place.
Yeah, it
it's just
feels a vacuum.
I'm thinking more. Yeah, the war on drugs is one thing. I'm thinking more just all the other things that cartels doing in terms of like human trafficking,
They're
like the
terrible
trafficking
and,
piece
I'm
of
not
it is
saying
like
they
the one.
deserve to live, but like going down there and cutting the snake's head off.
The
just to
legalizing everything would make the most sense, simply
Yeah.
because that takes care of that vacuum problem.
That's where I
and
was going.
and
We
the
gotta
education and everything else kind of pours into that. So
Well,
you're like,
they'll find other means to keep having business. Like again, human trafficking is such a massive thing in the world that that's what
Yeah.
what I'd say is
there's always a vacuum that needs to be filled. There's always
right.
evil.
But again, though, like,
Yeah, there's always evil, right? They're
and-
gonna find some way.
There's always evil to fight.
And Rogan said this 1,000 times. Like, if we can just help make those countries better instead of putting our boot on their neck,
Yeah.
like that's the only way those problems are going to go away,
Right.
is if they just look more like the U.S.
Well, El Salvador did it right when they took all of their criminals, all their MS-13 and everything,
Yep.
and they put them all in prison.
Yep.
Just
It
zero
screwed up
tolerance
their
to-
their GDP for a little while.
Uh-huh.
But what they did was they got the public to buy in on the fact that and this is IMF didn't want them to do that.
Yeah.
IMF said don't do that. You're
Yeah,
gonna
that's not fair to the.
you're wrecking your GDP if you do that, right?
Right.
Because not the cartels, but the gangs are actually part of the GDP.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They're generating revenue down there. And Buleli's like, fuck that. We're shutting this all down. We're getting rid of these guys. And that's exactly what they did. They put them all in prison, and they were strict as fuck about it. And if these guys were doing work, they were doing productive work that would contribute to society.
Yeah.
They'd take those guys out on chain gangs and have them clean up the shit that they destroyed.
Yeah.
And now today, El Salvador is one of the safest places on the planet. Buleli's got he's number one in terms of like most recognized president. Like people love him.
Yeah.
And in fact, the cost of living is going up there because he's repatriating all the people that fled.
Yeah.
So you can take a play out of that guy's book, and it's working.
Yeah.
And do the same thing with, say, Mexico and their cartels.
Yeah.
And just take it from there. I mean,
Yeah.
that's step number one. Put them all in jail. If they're not going to put them all in jail, it doesn't sound like Mexico wants to.
Yeah.
So then we're like, okay, we're just going to go in and fucking kill them all then.
Yeah.
You have a choice.
Yeah.
Work with us or don't work with us.
Clean up
So
your
we'll
own
see.
problem or
Yeah. See what happens.
Well, we got to wrap up, but let's take a quick cold plunge, and
Yeah, I
then we'll
like
come
that
back
idea.
in and wrap it up.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I got one more question for G.
Yeah.
All right. I feel like we should be on like a lake in Minnesota. About ready to do some fishing.
That'd be
Hole
great.
right there or something.
Get a hole in. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That would be the move. All right. Well, my one question for you, Gene. Mean Gene, is that are you mean on the? Sorry, my brain. I got
Not
a
like
squirrel
you do.
brain.
Not
Have
like
you and
you.
I rolled before?
Probably not. I don't
Okay.
think so.
Yeah, we would have remembered.
Different classes.
So that said, are you mean on the mat?
Not like you.
What? What do you mean?
Not
Not
like you. I've watched you roll, and I'm like, I get intimidated when I see you roll. I'm just like, whoa, this, wrestling is not my strong point, and you use a lot of wrestling and jiu-jitsu technique, and it comes off well.
It looks mean, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. But
It feels,
we
it
were
feels
on
mean often.
Yeah.
you were on the text chain this morning.
For
With
what?
so they were trying to get Bino's unwell, so he was trying to get somebody to cover.
Oh.
And they're like, "Oh, Luke, go and show some wrestling." I was like, "Oh, I got Gene at 5:30 or 6," and like, "Oh, mean Gene, okay, good luck." And I've heard that before, so
I don't like to think of myself. I think of myself as kind of slow and slothy.
Yeah, he's
But-
a wizard.
but,
Gene's a wizard on the mats. It's
I would say slow and slothy, but then scrambly when the scrambles need to be happening.
changing
Yeah.
speeds. Yeah,
Yeah,
you get
so-
to stuff quick. Yeah, it freaks people out, right?
Yeah. And I like to get heavy. I like, I'm a Henry Aiken's disciple, so it's like a lot of my jiu-jitsu is about like angles and weight distribution, and just good base.
Yeah.
My
Very
favorite
conceptual.
thing lately has been when I get in mount is scooping their arms above their head, just working them up and controlling the elbows.
Yeah.
And just watching the soul leave their
Just-
body. Just like,
Dude, and you know what? I was thinking
Yeah,
about you
future life.
on Sunday because I had a really high mount and I was trying to scoop up both arms. I'm thinking about Luke. Hey, get both of his arms over his head and just smother him.
so I go like almost a collar tie, and then I start with one arm.
Yeah.
And then once that arm's up, I secure it there with his head, and then they'll be moving their other arm around, and eventually when it breaks a line, I just scoop that
Oh,
one
yeah.
up,
Uh-huh.
and then they're
over.
cooking.
Yeah.
I love it.
Because you can't use your hips when you're like this.
Oh, you're in a bad spot,
You
dude.
can't
Yeah.
get the space to arch
You
and
have the
ridge
high
and-
mount, and you just
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that's been my favorite thing lately to get to.
panic. You just got to panic.
Yep.
You
It's yeah.
just don't get there. That's what I tell people. I'm just like, don't get there.
Don't-
I know-
yeah.
I know it's easier said than done, but don't get there if you
Yeah.
can avoid it. Yeah.
Well, Gene, dude, I'm on your wavelength, man. I dig a lot of what you're saying.
absolutely.
You're in a special place in my brain.
Oh,
man.
thanks, man.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep trying to get more Gene in my life after this.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys bringing me on here, dude. This is fun.
For sure.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect, but I really enjoyed it. So thanks for bringing me out here.
Hey, we're happy to have you.
Sweet.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. Before we go, though, we got to get you to hit those rocks with some
Oh,
water.
yeah. Thank you, Dana.
What do I got to do with that?
Put
So-
some water on the rocks.
okay.
Yep.
We're gonna spice it up in here.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. You're going to wish you had a hat for this.
Oh, yeah. You that's going to be a good one.
That'll do it. Here it comes.
Oh, here it comes.
Yep.
Oh, where's my hat? You got
Yep. Uh-huh.
Boy, that moves fast, doesn't it?
Uh-huh.
Man.
It just
Breathe slow.
it just gets on top of you and squishes
Dude,
you.
you throw a little eucalyptus oil in there? Would that like turn it into like a?
We usually have. Actually, I need to
Effervescent.
find that bottle.
Yeah.
There's probably some residual in there, but yeah, we usually have some essential oils
Mhm.
laying around.
Just turn it into a.
Dude, I need to get back on that.
Yeah.
But thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
My kids steal everything, so
Yeah,
nothing lasts too long around here.
I'm sure you get used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just given up basically.
Just accept it for what it is. man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man.
Well, good times, you guys. Thanks for having me on again.
All right,
and,
brother. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Gene, thanks again.
Thank you.
Dana,
Good
my
times.
brother.
Yep.
All right, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. RB, I just want to say hi, how are you? And we'll see you tomorrow.
Robert Bruce.
All right.
Yep.
Later, Robert Bruce.
All right.
Later.